Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I've got a few geopolitical things to bring up right off the top here, a couple of discussions to have, a great deal of education information to bring your way, including some local issues and some new revelations here, specifically regarding the case of Danielle Mann, the high school English teacher who, of course, went off the rails on her TikTok channel and then, of course, made the international and national news with her unprofessional behavior, conduct unbecoming an educator, misusing technology during her contractual time, and a number of other things. I'm going to get to that in a little bit, and again, I have a great deal to discuss regarding that. And then just one particular jab-related story that I wanted to mention as well. Let me start with this very quickly. First of all, I'm back up on X. My account was restored, so I'm not using my backup account. So if you're on X and you follow me over there, again, you can feel free and give me a follow on either account, but I'll just be posting on my primary account. Of course, I'm always on Gab at American Education FM over there. And then I am American Education FM over on X. You can just type all of that in and my account will immediately pop up. Yeah, there you go. I think it's at American Ed FM, more specifically. So there you go. Okay. Again, you know, the hypocrisy of that platform is astounding. Everybody is well aware of it. People over there, of course, are constantly commenting on it, and rightfully so. George Soros' son, Alex Soros, is more than willing to openly state that war is a good thing and that one country receiving rockets to bomb and kill other individuals is 100% fine. But if I say hanging communists is a good thing, then I lose my account. Whereas, of course, they don't. And I fully understand, again, that this is sort of a very superficial argument that a lot of people have, and they take up a lot of time on their own platforms to discuss censorship. But people have to know that these places continue to do this. So I just wanted to mention again that my accounts are still open over there, and certainly my primary account is now reopened. Okay, let me bring this up right off the top too. It was an interesting little video that someone put out, and I'm going to do my best to summarize it. I could play the entire thing. Again, it was over 5-6 minutes long, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm just going to do my best to summarize it. You can even bounce over on my X account and take a look at it because I just reposted it just because it was a sort of thought-provoking, but it ties in a number of different angles, I think, with what is going on now geopolitically, certainly on the so-called, I guess, right-wing side of things, and certainly among individuals in the alternative media. There's an individual over there who, again, he was looking into his cell phone and recording himself, and he was talking about how Stu Peters is a Mossad agent, and that Stu Peters is controlled opposition. This individual raises some interesting points, but at the exact same time, there are holes in the story as well. So a couple of the interesting points that he mentions is he brings up how, well, it's basically the general question of where did Stu Peters get his money? How is it that you get this giant studio, just like Alex Jones, for example? How is it that you get this giant studio, all these supplement companies funding you or sponsoring you, and a number of other things. And then, of course, all of the people that you pay in order to work around you and with you. And how much is that money? And, of course, what are they actually getting paid? And then he brings up, again, some of these documentaries, which, of course, Stu Peters doesn't necessarily produce, but he's in them and puts his name on them. Here's what I'm going to say. I don't have any proof. Well, I'll round it out by basically saying this. What the individual was stating is that Mossad is 100% okay getting individuals to recognize who they are and what they've been doing as an Israeli intelligence agency, and that doesn't bother them. It doesn't bother them that people are waking up to the Jewish question, was essentially his point. His point is that once more people are awake to it, that the idea is that this is going to be used against Donald Trump in the future. And that all of the individuals, again, who are awake to the Jewish question are somehow going to turn on Donald Trump and then demand something else. I think that's a bit of a stretch. and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But as you've heard me say before here, specifically regarding Stu Peters, he does good work. He has good people on his platforms telling the truth, and he has clearly matured over the last few years on the Jewish question. And he's wide awake on this issue, I think. He still has more learning to do because there's always more learning to do. But at the exact same time, if his platform and some of the documentaries that Sean Hibbler makes and other individuals, again, are putting out there and making, if it's waking people up to the real world and it's asking serious questions and having people recognize particular things, then that's absolutely fantastic. The problem that I have, which you've heard me say before, is that when someone like him is immovable on certain subjects, it's due usually to one of two things. He has an emotional connection or a personal connection to the thing that's being discussed that blinds him from seeing the truth. Or he was absent somewhere along the awakening process and was immediately dismissing a number of different things and a number of different, I would say, learning opportunities and learning points throughout this awakening process. Case in point, as I've said before, the entire Q operation and those Q drops and how that was a positive psychological operation. Again, I'm not going to rehash everything, but we know that that was designed to wake people up, and it worked. It was designed to use the Socratic method, and this is face value. This is just face value definition of the Q operation. It was designed to get people to shake themselves free from the matrix and the shackles of believing that government is going to help you and get you to understand that government is not going to help you. That government and the people within are the problem, that they are the enemy. Again, the Q operation didn't say trust government, which is why, again, as I've said before, when people compare that to Operation Trust was the exact opposite. Operation Trust was, don't worry, government people are in control. This is going to be a good thing. We're going to help you. Just stick around and wait for government to save the day. Again, that was not the Q operation. That operation, again, you can look at how it transpired, how it played out, but then always pay attention to who wasn't talking about it on these massive platforms and who wasn't bringing it up. And the fact is that Alex Jones wasn't bringing it up when it was making the rounds and immensely popular, and people were waking up. Now, again, why wasn't Alex Jones bringing it up? Very simple. He wasn't bringing it up because he would lose his audience. And Alex Jones doesn't want to lose his audience. So what does he do? He criticizes it. He calls it a psychological operation, calls people Q-tards, and makes fun of everybody. And he does all of that, keeping in mind that really all he's doing is making fun of people who are learning on his own without listening to him. So again, as a broadcaster, he's not going to want to do that because he's interested in making money. His funders and his moneylenders don't want him to do that because, of course, they'll be going away from them also. Customers would be going away from their products also. And so he plays the victim on a number of different things. I'm not doubting that maybe government's gone after him for one reason or another. I'm certain that they have. But isn't it interesting that it always ends up working out for him one way or another? Again, with Stu Peters, there's a lot of victim, I would say, victim awareness, so to speak. Woe is me, woe is me. But at the exact same time, he's bringing up very serious subjects, of which, again, he's relatively new on, which is fine. But there have been numerous other individuals out there trying to wake him up. And again, I remember on social media his awakening process on the Jewish question. It really started about a year ago is all. It really was just sort of a year ago when he was having conversations with Cynthia McKinney, a former congresswoman from Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. And she was describing, again, AIPAC, and she was describing the Israeli lobby. And she was calling them out, and of course that's why she's not in Congress anymore, because she wouldn't play along with those games. And then she, Stu Peters eventually, of course, started talking to Brother Nathaniel, and then things started to fall in line. In particular, again, events started to occur, of course, the Jews popping out of the sewers in New York, and the stained mattresses in the walls and the whole thing. And then, of course, somewhere along the way, he ended up watching Europa: The Last Battle and allegedly reading Mein Kampf. Well, that's great. Good for him. I mean, that's, this information is out there, and it's a good thing. Now, this information's been out there for many years, decades, as a matter of fact. Europa: The Last Battle was produced in 2017. So I saw it in 2017 and burned it off the internet and was making DVDs and showing family members. And I mean, that's what I was doing back in 2017. So I'm glad that he just watched it within the last year. I mean, again, good for him. But again, where he's immovable is understanding the importance of the Q operation. And that's a big problem because, again, his father is jabbed with these shots, and he blames Donald Trump because Donald Trump told him to take the shots. So you're just supposed to do everything that Donald Trump says. I mean, I don't know anybody who believes that. That right there, again, was one of the lessons in this entire thing. As you've heard me say, too, he clearly doesn't understand the definition of Operation Warp Speed and what that really meant. I've been over it before on the show a million times. Just very quickly, again, because I don't want to take too much time on this, but the operation was designed originally, not Operation Warp Speed, but what the plan was is if Hillary Clinton got in 2016 and the good guys didn't help stop the steal in 2016, which they did. The good guys intervened and stopped her. The plan that she was going to carry out on the American people was going to be a fake illness, a forced biological weapon that people would have to take, and lockdowns for a long time. No election, wear a mask, do what you're told, slavery. That was the plan. And then a mass genocide. And then things would be so bad that everybody would beg for a one-world government, and Hillary Clinton would be one of many individuals ushering in a one-world government. This can't get any clearer. And this is very serious shit. That's what was going to happen. It was being discussed on the Chan boards. It was being discussed on Vote back in the day, VOAT. It was being discussed everywhere on the internet that wasn't being censored, in places that weren't being censored. And fortunately for me, I was involved in those boards, and I was reading those boards, and I was contributing certainly to Vote, which is why, again, I put together the Storm series starting in March of 2020, which again is free on my website. You can start reading it. Read the first volume. It'll blow you away, the amount of truthful information that existed in March of 2020. No one would have taken a shot. Nobody. If they had a brain in their skull, if they just read volume 1 of that series. But again, it's not about that series. It's about the messaging that was really out there and what people were missing. And now again, Stu Peters is very sure of himself, so much so again that he blindly dismisses and angrily dismisses the entire Q operation, which helped individuals wake up, relearn that they need to learn on their own as an individual, that the human brain can take in copious amounts of information from multiple angles, and you can actually sift through all of this information and arrive at a singular answer by applying the scientific method and the Socratic method. Always ask questions, but always arrive at an answer and attempt to arrive at a singular answer. Don't just blindly ask questions all of the time without arriving at an actual answer. You can actually see that too in some of these people who have these larger platforms. All they'll do is ask questions, and then you can see the Agent Smith matrix face that they start to make when they start to arrive at an answer that, that goes against what it is that they previously believed. Again, if you sat down Stu Peters and you explained to him what I just explained to him, he would dismiss it. But again, I'm glad he's doing what he's doing. Mossad agent, I don't know about that. He rails on Donald Trump rather hard, which unfortunately, I mean, he has a point with some things, but he's also looking at everything at face value one-dimensionally. And he's not taking in copious amounts of other information that does need to be mentioned here and brought in for questioning. So again, the individual's post in the video that this guy made discussing all of this, it shouldn't surprise anybody, again, that individuals with larger platforms and lots of sponsors and copious amounts of money, which Stu Peters has openly said he has plenty of it. I mean, he owns 2 homes, one in Minneapolis and one in Florida. He openly talks about this. Well, I got a boat and I got cars and I got blah, 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 blah. It's like, good for you, man. Good for you. We don't care. But it does beg the question again, how much money, how many staffers do you actually have, and then what do you pay them? I mean, again, I'd like to see his books. That would be an interesting thing. It's none of my business. And in the grand scheme of things, I really don't care. But if he actually believes either Stu Peters or this guy who is criticizing Stu Peters, believe for a minute that this is all about going after Donald Trump and attacking Donald Trump and getting everybody to turn on Donald Trump and have Zionists and, of course, our occupied country, hence the title of his documentary, be used against Donald Trump in the future to bury Donald Trump and back him into some corner as if to say, well, now Donald Trump has to come out against the Jewish question and Zionists and the whole thing. You're actually seeing the real answer transpire right now that was a part of the Q operation plan already happen. As of yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu, again, has an international warrant out for his arrest, including his entire administration. Notice how Donald Trump is dead silent about this. He's not taking a stance on it. He's behind the scenes on this. That's because he doesn't have to be out in front. There are other people working to take down this Khazarian mafia that has been the problem this entire time. Again, Stu Peters doesn't spend a lick of time, not 1 second, talking about how there are Jewish individuals or Israelites or whatever name you want to call these people, okay? That there are endless individuals that do exist that want Christians to be left alone, want Palestinians and Muslims to be left alone because they want to be left alone. There are endless Jewish individuals protesting the slaughter in Palestine. They're waving around the Palestinian flag. They're saying, this is disgusting, we hate Netanyahu, this is awful. Stu Peters doesn't spend a lick of time talking about that. And that's something that is going on. So he has blind spots, is my point. So does Alex Jones. That's again where these individuals are incapable, apparently, of saying what could be said and taking in multiple angles of information and then sifting through it and arriving at objective answers. They're really kind of 2 heads of the same hand to some extent. I mean, look at the way that they do things. They mimic one another. The only difference is one of them names the Jew and the other one doesn't. One says Jew and Alex Jones says globalists and whatever other words he uses for it. It's always globalist, New World Order, deep state, whatever else. That's really the only difference between the two of them. And then, of course, Stu Peters criticizes Alex Jones and says, well, I'm not allowed to be back on his show anymore because I was bringing up who the real enemy was in XYZ. There is a spectrum, is my entire point here. There is a spectrum. And unfortunately, again, there is a division that is taking place here where some people are believing that all of this is some giant pissing contest and whose stream is thicker and longer than the next person. It's completely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And this is exactly, unfortunately, what the enemy wants. They don't want all of us to gather together and coalesce as a singular force against who the real enemies truly are. But there are lots of moving parts in this war here. We're watching the destruction of the Democrat Party, which is a good thing. We're watching endless Republicans be called out for the frauds that they are. Take Nancy Mace, for example, recently, okay, screaming at the top of her lungs about this transgender, whatever the hell, this guy pretending to be a girl, in Congress, for the very first time, and then wanting to use whatever bathrooms they want, and now finally by Mike Johnson being told, no, they're a biological man, so they have to use men's bathrooms. Nancy Mace, of course, was yelling at the top of her lungs that this isn't fair regarding, again, that transgender individual, again, the dude pretending to be the woman, being able to use whatever bathroom they want, and Nancy Mace had a point. The problem is that Nancy Mace was also in the Citadel, and one of the first females, if not the first female in the Citadel, if I'm not mistaken. So again, she has a lot of nerve when it comes to, playing the victim. I mean, there were a lot of guys who didn't want her to be a part of the Citadel either. So, don't fly too close to the sun on certain issues. Of course, I don't agree with any whack job, mentally ill person dressing up as a woman when they're not, using whatever bathroom they want. I have a very harsh take on that, as you would expect. I think these people should be deported. I mean, we need to make mental institutions great again. That congressman is in, and yes, it is a congressman, is in DSM-5, the Diagnostic Manual for Mental and Emotional Disorders. So again, that's where they belong. They should be ostracized. But the very people doing the loudest screaming about it also have, some skeletons in their closet. And then, of course, she plays the victim also. Well, I was raped, and I was raped, and I was raped. Okay, thanks, Nancy Mace. We don't care. That's not relevant. You're jab injured. You believed government. You took the shots. That's your problem. I mean, she has a few screws loose on her own. With that said, as I even brought up earlier, what are people saying and what are people not saying at very critical moments in time? Again, where was Nancy Mace during the entire shot rollout and the mask wearing and all of that totalitarianism? Where was she? She was tight-lipped. She may not have even been in Congress when the shots rolled out. I'm not sure. If she was, fine. If not, okay. Again, most Congress people just kind of went along with it. And if they didn't take the shots, they weren't public about it. They didn't tell the public, hey, look, don't do this. Don't inject yourself with this stuff. Don't wear the mask. This is a problem. All of this is unconstitutional. They were all dead quiet. So that should, again, tell everybody about them. Now, somebody like Stu Peters was very loud about it. But what was interesting about his show when he started it was that, and he started his show, again, approximately 6 months before me. So look at the size of our shows. I mean, there's something suspicious certainly going on. Okay, but at the exact same time, he was just a vessel for a number of individuals to come on his show and provide information. He was just accepting lots of different individuals. And again, his show was all about the shots. That was his entire show. He wasn't bringing up anything else. Now his show is basically all about Jews and Zionism, which again, that's fine. He can discuss whatever he'd like to discuss. I don't have a problem with that. But for anybody to say that someone in a position like Donald Trump's, or even the people behind the scenes that we never see who are working with him and of course, using him as a figurehead while other things are going on behind the scenes, for someone like Stu Peters or the guests on his show or the people that are highlighted within his documentary, for all of them to pretend like they have it all figured out, or they all understand everything that's really going on, that's impossible. Because I don't have it all figured out either. So why would he? Why would Alex Jones? Again, there's a lot of criticism right now regarding Alex Jones and Mike Flynn, and rightfully so, regarding all of this warmongering and this constant pushing of war. We're already in World War III. It's already happened. United States created bombs and missiles have been sent to Ukraine, and Ukraine's already shooting Russia, and look what's happening. It's already World War III. We're all going to die. Nuclear war is right around the corner. You've never heard me say that here. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not saying people aren't dying. I know that they are. But I'm not trying to panic people and scream and shout and be sensational. That sensationalism preys on the weakest part of the human mind. Just like becoming, again, over-emotional about particular things. Again, Stu Peters' dad took the shots after Stu Peters told his dad to not take the shots, allegedly, because he watched Fox News and he watched Donald Trump tell people again to take the shots during his rallies. The part that, again, Stu Peters misses and skips over conveniently is that Donald Trump in early 2020 was telling people that shots weren't necessary. He was telling people that there are alternatives and other ways to do things and other ways for people to be healthy. Vitamin C, get outside, a number of things. He took off numerous restrictions. And of course, the people fought back on their own because not all of us are brainwashed. We did whatever we wanted to do. We went wherever we wanted to go. We didn't wear the mask. We didn't stand on the sticker. If somebody yelled at us, we told them to go fuck themselves. It was very simple. It's not complicated. And as I've said before, I remember those task force meetings. I watched them because there was a lot of good messaging that was taking place in those task force meetings, specifically when every single time Donald Trump would allude to the fact that people don't need to listen to government and that things can be okay and things can be like this and things can be like that and you don't have to do this, but you should look into this, or maybe you should pay attention to this subject. All you had to do was look at the faces of the bureaucrats behind him and to his left and to his right and what they were saying. He was on stage saying something completely different than what everybody else was saying. The looks on, again, Fauci's face and Birx's face and the Surgeon General at the time, I forget his name, the black guy, again, saying everybody needs to get their shots and blah, blah, blah. I mean, all these people, they all detested what Donald Trump was saying, and Donald Trump would, of course, interrupt them. During these task force meetings, he'd say, well, actually, I think this. And then he'd walk over in front of the lectern, and then he'd say the exact opposite of what they were saying. I remember that. And I remember that early, and I remember that often. So this, again, this business of having a selective memory, I'm sorry, then you're not being objective then. Alex Jones, again, equally as guilty on that issue. Equally as guilty. That's one of the reasons why David, what's his name? David something. David Knight. There we go. I knew it was in my brain pan someplace. That's why David Knight left InfoWars. David Knight was yelling about the shots, and Alex Jones initially was going, well, wait a minute. Trump wants us to take these shots. This might be a good thing. This'll help everybody and blah, blah, blah. And then once David Knight left InfoWars, Alex Jones did a 180. Well, Alex Jones is the king of the 180. He's done so many 180s that, he should be dizzy for the rest of his life. But again, people aren't keeping track of when people are right and when people are wrong, but more importantly, what people are willing to listen to and what they're not willing to listen to. What are they willing to consider and what are they not? So I'll round it out by saying this. I would continue to encourage people to understand and learn about the Socratic method. Socrates climbed the mountain, was told by the oracles back in the day, you are the smartest among them and the wisest rather, because you know nothing. And then down he went. And he continued again to not be some patronizing philosopher or teacher, constantly asking questions and purposely confusing people. He would provide answers to his students, just like any effective educator would. But you have to be willing to take in numerous amounts of information from multiple angles and from multiple people, and then have the time and the thought to sift through it and arrive at logical answers. That's why anybody who dismisses the Q post blindly is openly telling everybody they didn't read the posts, they weren't paying attention to them when they came out, They weren't thinking about them, doing their own research, and a number of other things. So again, if somebody like Stu Peters wants to do a pissing contest regarding the Jewish question, Stu, I read Mein Kampf in high school. I read it again and listened to it, the audio version, again 2 years ago. Still holds up, and I'll fully admit, in high school, I didn't fully comprehend the text because I didn't have the life experiences around me to comprehend the text fully. I get it now. Makes perfect sense. I saw Europa: The Last Battle in 2017 when it first came out. When did he watch it? See, that's the problem here, is it's not a pissing contest. This doesn't matter. People should just learn freely without hindrance. But anybody trying to hinder your wavelength of thought, it's not that they necessarily have some nefarious agenda or are being paid to carry out some nefarious agenda or get people on their side. Maybe they're just close-minded. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's just things that they missed along the way, and they're still trying to play a bit of a catch-up. Or maybe, again, they're emotionally involved in one angle or another, and that blinds them from seeing particular things. I'll leave that up to anybody else. But, yeah, I've rambled about this long enough. I just think that everybody has the right to take in copious amounts of information, but when individuals are constantly trying to divide people, the one thing that you cannot divide are facts. So don't focus on the people, focus on facts and information. What people are saying, what they're not saying. What people are, again, discussing with regularity and what they're not discussing with regularity. I mean, I'm not going to toot my own horn here, and I'm not claiming to be an expert. I know a great deal, as I'm sure you're aware, and many of you also know a great deal about the subject of education and indoctrination in our nation. But again, how many people out there have a podcast talking about the actual business and the ins and outs of this corrupt business at the detailed level that I bring up on this show? The answer is zero. And the reason that is because they don't want, and by they, of course, I mean, yes, the Jewish lobby, but of course, the corrupt education system doesn't want the American public to know what the actual solutions are to this problem that we call, of course, American education. They don't want you to figure this out. I'm going to bring up more examples later in the show here regarding that, and I'm going to save that for just a little bit later here. But again, that should continue to sort of be the blinding light here and the buoy in the water, the red flag, if you want, that what are people not discussing? What are they not talking about? And then, of course, why? But like I said earlier, it doesn't mean that they have a nefarious motive of any kind. It doesn't mean that they're being paid to not discuss such a thing. Sometimes they are. I'm certain that happens. We all know that happens. But maybe it's just because they don't want to learn about it. Maybe it's because they don't want to be wrong about something either. Again, it's my 2 cents on a number of issues, but there you have it. Again, let me mention this sort of in the same wavelength regarding some of Trump's picks here. Everybody knows that a great deal of these individuals that he's picked are not in fact Jewish. In fact, Lee Zeldin, to my knowledge, is the only one who actually is. I thought Elise Stefanik was Jewish. Maybe she isn't. But either way, a great deal of them are Zionists, and a great deal of them, of course, are promoting Israel, and they're our greatest ally, and you know that because I've played the audio here, and we know their previous takes on these particular issues. But he's now picked, of course, Dr. Oz. Good old Dr. Mehmet Oz. And here's the statement again from Trump. He says, I am very pleased to nominate Dr. Mehmet Oz to serve as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator. America is facing a healthcare crisis, and there may be no physician more qualified and capable than Dr. Oz to make America healthy again. Okay. First of all, Robert Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Oz couldn't be further apart on numerous issues. And of course, Dr. Oz was one of these people that, frankly, Donald Trump used to make fun of. Just like he makes fun of the TV generals, why would he not make fun of the TV doctors? Again, Dr. Oz promoted transgenderism on his show, The Dr. Oz Show. He was pro-vaccine to the bone. He was pro a lot of things. Listen to me, I'm Dr. Oz. I'm wearing a scrub on a stage with cameras pointing at me and I'm on your TV. None of that's an accident. It's all evil propaganda. And unfortunately, people fell for it. But at the exact same time, look at Dr. Oz's associations with other human beings too. Oprah, Dr. Phil, Maria Abramovich, very evil people. That's because they're a part of a club. It's not a good club. It's a very bad club that turns a blind eye or participates in very evil things. And we know this to be a fact. Maybe Dr. Oz has been brought in, and we get to think this way, by the way. Again, some people would say, well, this isn't 5D chess, and that's not happening, and blah, blah, blah. Well, how do they know? I mean, how would they know that maybe Dr. Oz was picked on purpose to continue to, again, be brought in as if to say to the bad guys, we got one of your guys by the balls now. Now he works for me. And if he leaks things, we're going to know that. And if RFK Jr. doesn't like him, you better believe that good people are going to be told that Oz is a bad dude. And maybe Oz isn't doing things that he needs to be doing. So let's review Dr. Oz's resume just back in 2020 very briefly. Dr. Oz pushed the masks. Not only did he do that, and of course very willfully looking forward to a vaccination and how exciting that would be. Dr. Oz was on Fox News with regularity, almost daily, because Fox News was bringing in these TV doctors and these snake oil salesmen to provide an answer to the gullible, who would watch Fox News and then say, well, what's Dr. Oz going to say? Let me get my "What would Dr. Oz do" bracelet out of the cupboard, and I'll out of my desk drawer, and I'll put it on my wrist and slap it and remind myself that Dr. Oz has something important to say. Dr. Oz was on TV, on Fox News, advocating not just for mask wearing, but isolating yourself in your home, away from your own family members and away from your own pets. He's fucking nuts. And he was then, and he was before 2020. What makes anybody think that he's changed his ways? Ran for senator in Pennsylvania. Whether it was stolen or not, it was probably stolen away from him. Who cares? It doesn't matter one way or another. He's useless anyway. But at the exact same time, this is supposed to teach people that you're not supposed to listen to these people. You're an individual human being. Your brain is bigger than his. So why would people just blindly listen to him? Well, that's the negative psychological operation. That's the brainwashing. Instead of saying, what should I do? A person will ask themselves, what's Dr. Oz doing? Because I need to do what he's doing. That person isn't going to make it. If everybody was listening to Dr. Oz, no one would have any genitals. No one would have any breasts. Everybody would be sitting on a stool in their own home, separated from everybody else. Your cats and dogs would be dead because you wouldn't be feeding them, because you were isolating yourself from something that didn't even exist. And of course, where's the admission of all of this? Has he admitted wrong in any of this? He's been pretty silent, as a matter of fact. I haven't seen Dr. Oz making the rounds hardly anywhere within the last few years. So again, I don't know the motives for bringing him in. I know what the bad dude has done in the past, and I don't like him. Doesn't mean that there isn't something else going on here, though. I even played the audio on the show again back then. It would have been 2021, where he was pressuring another show host, Wendy Williams, to take the shots. And he either he was on her show or she was on his show. And he's looking at her with an entire audience of just goobers, all wearing masks. And he says, well, Wendy, you have a big audience. You have a large following on social media, and a lot of people listen to you. And I don't understand your hesitation. And then he's reaching in and he's holding her hand, as only a psychopath could, rubbing her hand and going, well, why aren't you taking the shots? Well, I'm a doctor. Why aren't you believing me? And she's going, no, I'm not taking them. I'm not taking them. And then she backed away from him and recoiled and said, I'm not taking them. I'm healthy. I don't take shots. I don't need to take these shots. I'm just fine. Oz didn't like that. The Jewish lobby didn't like that either. Lots of people didn't like that. Does Wendy Williams still have a show on TV? Maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe that was the nail in her professional coffin, so to speak. Or her TV appearance coffin. Who knows? Who cares? Point is she took a stand, and she took a stand on the right thing, right in the face of the devil. And that's a good thing. Good. She was 100% right. And by not taking it, and people listening to her, she saved lives. Because people followed her word instead of, again, listening to themselves and doing their own reading and their own research and learning about, trust and how you shouldn't blindly trust strangers on your TV box. Now, very briefly, let me move on to this particular appointment also. This has to do with the appointment of Matt Whitaker to the U.S. ambassador to NATO. NATO, of course, is corrupt. They traffic children, they run guns, weapons, drugs, take over countries. Again, you talk about a one-world government, that's what NATO does. There are endless Q posts, not endless, but a great deal of them, with Matt Whitaker's name in it. And very quickly, Matt Whitaker took over for Jeff Sessions as the head of the DOJ. And he was there for a little while, and then remained there, and then ended up leaving after the Trump administration, or maybe just before the end of the Trump administration. But he was there for a great deal of time. This is a guy who has seen a lot of stuff. I tend to trust him. I just do. Again, he works behind the scenes. Yes, he's been on Fox News occasionally, not frequently, but occasionally saying a couple of things as well. Speaking about one particular law case or another law case, because, again, he's a lawyer. But to take someone like him, who's been mentioned in these Q drops with regularity and was back then, and then took over for Sessions when, again, a lot of people were like, Jeff Sessions is a piece of trash and blah, blah, blah. Maybe he wasn't. Jeff Sessions got a lot of things rolling in the right direction. For very good reason, because he was, again, directed to do so. And then Whitaker did the exact same thing. And when you have those acting directors of an agency, and you're moving them around, and then allowing them to stay and, again, take other positions within the agency, these individuals don't get lobotomies after they've seen information and classified information while holding a particular position or a more high-ranking position, and then going back to a lower-ranking position. These individuals know what they've seen, and they know what conversations they've had with other people, whether they be classified or not classified conversations. But to then take somebody like him and throw him into the ambassadorship of NATO, that's a damn good thing too, because you're talking about a guy who knows a great deal about what was going on in our country and foreign adversaries, and now you're putting him in the middle of a foreign adversary group that doesn't have the best interests of those that associate with NATO at heart, and certainly the countries and the leaders and the people at heart. Again, it's a globalist entity, but it has to be done away with. So what if Whitaker shows up, stirs the pot, rocks the boat back and forth, causes some waves, or even brings in information that buries them? That would be a nice thing. Seeing the end of NATO would be a very nice thing. And again, they were created, and lots of people already know this, but NATO was created to basically go to war with Russia and to take over Russia, because Russia's not a part of NATO. Neither is China. Neither is Asia, by and large. So, there you go. But having Whitaker sort of be the, again, I'm not sure what metaphor I would create, but having him in that position sort of as a roadblock, so to speak, to keep that from happening, I think would be a very good thing. Whitaker's a big guy. He's formidable looking. But he doesn't seem like a guy who's not objective. He's always talked like and communicated like a guy who's very objective. He doesn't sound like a war hawk. He's not a John Bolton who's like, oh, we need to make more missiles and we need to, whatever. He's not a lunatic. I think that's a very good appointment. So again, that's my 2 cents on that. I'll get to Linda McMahon here now. As the Secretary of Education, again, I have a concern in that she's just been associated with the WEF and the World Economic Forum in the past. Whether she is now or not, I don't think she is now anymore. But again, here's what it says regarding Linda McMahon. She was the former administrator of the Small Business Administration under Trump previously, and again has now been named the United States Secretary of Education. It says, for the past 4 years, as chair of the board of the America First Policy Institute, AFPI, Linda has been a fierce advocate for parents' rights, working hard at both AFPI and America First Works, AFW, to achieve universal school choice in 12 states, giving children the opportunity to receive an excellent education regardless of zip code or income. As Secretary of Education, Linda will fight tirelessly to expand choice, quote unquote, with a capital C, to every state in America and empower parents to make the best education decisions for their families. And then, of course, she has a resume, which is fine. Again, she served on some university boards and some school boards, and that's 100% fine. You can take down the Department of Education by law, or you can incentivize states to know that it's more profitable to not have public education. So which of those do you think is easier to do? Is it easier to go after Washington, D.C. and chop away at all the lobbyists and all of the individuals in D.C. and the congressmen and women who are getting paid to maintain the corrupt Department of Education, which, by the way, sexually grooms children, sexually abuses them, allows for all of the Jewish degeneracy to enter these school buildings, the DEI, the SEL, the gay books, the faggotry, all of that stuff? Or do you go to specific states and actually work it a little bit differently at the state level and incentivize the states to disassociate with the federal Department of Education? You can do both. And there's a third angle, which is the one I advocate for, and you know what I'm about to say, that people leave the American education torture system on their own accord. That's the third string that you can pull while you're pulling the other two at the same time. You can pull the government strings, state, federal, but then you have to pull the one string that matters the most, individuality, your God-given right. When you pull that string, it's game over. So I think all three strings are getting pulled at the same time. I think that's a good thing. I think that if the federal Department of Education is not eliminated, people are going to know that. That's not going to look good. People are going to be well aware that that's the case, but what is that ultimately going to do? It's not that it's going to make things better for government. It's going to make it worse. More individuals are going to pull the individual God-given right string, and they're going to leave more so than they already have. Again, I think that this is a third string that is being pulled consistently on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. The regret, of course, that numerous people have is that once they pull their children out permanently from these systems and they stop associating with these criminal organizations called American schools, they look back as parents or as legal guardians of minors, and they ask themselves, why did I wait so long? Why did I waste all of this time screaming, yelling, shouting in board meetings when I could have just pulled my children out and we could have disassociated and had a whole lot less headaches and less trouble, and I could have spent more time with them or having them learn even on their own, because that's how adults learn. We don't sit around and wait for somebody to spoon feed shit to us. We just look up things and read books and watch, numerous documentaries and listen to people have lectures and a number of other things, and that's how we learn. But children don't have to just sit in a room and listen to some nitwit at the front of the room lecture them about their feelings and what they think about a particular subject, and just because they're the so-called teacher, you're just supposed to believe them. That's not how the world works. More people are waking up to this, which is good. The sad part is that when people wake up to it, they look back and they have nothing but regret. Well, stop having the opportunity for regret to rear its ugly head and just get out now. And just continue to leave and advocate for people to do the same. That's always been my suggestion. It will continue to be. But again, this is a multi-tentacled monster here, the business of education, that does have its suction cups on a lot of different groups and a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. But all of it, of course, as you know now, is just a full-blown dysgenic program. It's designed to kill people. It's designed to wear away at them. It's designed to separate families, children, keep people from being in stable relationships with the opposite sex. Again, get married. If I didn't say that just a second ago, a number of things. It's designed to take people away from God. It's designed to take people, rather, away from morality and values and tradition and family. That's the point. That's why it is a dysgenics program. But unfortunately, for a great deal of people, their universal language is money. So if you hook money to all of this, the business of education, and you incentivize not only states, but actual individual families to leave the public education system and find a better place to go. Certainly the home is the healthiest, and the individual mind with God involved is the healthiest. And individuals know that they will have money that they won't have to pay into a public school system via taxes, then who wouldn't want to take up that offer? So, yeah, you speak to people's language as much as you possibly can, I suppose, to shake them out of the matrix, but whatever works, works. And I'm all for it. Now, one last geopolitical thing here, and again, it has to do with Kari Lake. I found this to be interesting. Again, it makes perfect sense, and what a beautiful thing this would be if this actually came true. As I've brought up here before, and as many people know, Arizona is a massive cartel state, owned by the cartels, run by the cartels, bad school system, lots of crime, illegal aliens, open borders, you name it. Katie Hobbs is a complete tool, everybody knows that. And everybody knows that Kari Lake lawfully won the 2022 gubernatorial race. She also won the senatorial race this past time also. But one comes before the other. So if it is found, again, either by the Supreme Court, Trump's administration, what have you, on a public scale, on a grand scale, nationwide scale, that Kari Lake's gubernatorial race was stolen, and that all of this evidence is made public, or certainly brought to potentially a grand jury, then that would mean that Kari Lake would instantly be stalled as the governor of Arizona, thereby firing everybody, if not imprisoning the individuals who participated in the previous fake election. As a result of that being the case, of course, then voter fraud would come to light regarding the last senatorial race, which means as governor, Kari Lake would be able to replace Gallego, who is an Alex Soros tool, and be allowed to appoint any senator that she wants, or at the very least, there would be another senatorial race with new parameters for voting in Arizona. I would hope that this would be the case in the future. Again, it would be a nice present to unwrap and watch all of that transpire on a national stage, without a doubt. But you talk about revenge being a dish best served cold. That would be absolutely fantastic. Because again, the people of Arizona deserve the truth. You talk about a completely corrupt state. It's right up there with New York and certainly California. I mean, my God, hell, they're all corrupt. But even so, that would be a very nice thing to actually watch happen. I certainly hope it would, but time will tell on all of that. Okay. Deep breath here on the local issue and local issues. First of all, unfortunately, there's been an update, although I think this is hilarious, so I don't think it's necessarily unfortunate. But very famously, the Talawanda High School English teacher, Danielle Mann, gets to keep her job, as it turns out. And this was a statement made by the district, very short, very sweet, and very stupid. On November 20th of 2024, where they said the following. It says, THS teacher investigation closed. It says the following, again, quote, the Talawanda School District has completed the investigation into concerns that a THS teacher made social media videos posts on school property district's network/device. The teacher was placed on administrative leave on November 8th of 2024. The investigation process resulted in the teacher being disciplined. No explanation as to what that is. Slap on the wrist. It says Talawanda School District takes all concerns and complaints of employee conduct very seriously and follows school district policies, procedures, and Ohio laws. We're going to find out about that. As is the practice of Talawanda School District to not expound on personal issues publicly, the district will not comment further on the actions taken in this matter. Thank you for your patience and understanding. No, there is no understanding. The community has shown as the district has taken time to conduct a thorough investigation. Thank you, unquote. Okay, let's dive into this more specifically. First of all, the issue at hand, as I said previously in previous episodes, had nothing to do with her using her phone during her contractual time. That's a problem, and that's a contract-breaking, license-breaking issue. However, it's her words that are the problem. It's her threats that are the problem. It's her unhinged mental state that is the problem. And it's what she was actually advocating for verbally on film that is undeniable that is the problem. That's what breaks her codes of conduct at the state level regarding her license and her contract. The fact that the school district has said that she's been disciplined, case closed. No. This is wide open. This is wide open. I'm recording this on Thursday afternoon. Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Talawanda School District is having its monthly school board meeting. It airs on the Talawanda School District YouTube channel. I suggest everybody watch this. I'm going to play audio from this on Sunday night, Monday morning's next episode of this show, but I suggest that everybody watch this and take notes. I'll put the audio and the video up on social media for people to see, because everybody's going to need to hear from the public and what needs to transpire with this. If the school district thinks that they can fill all of the speaking spots or speaking slots with just left-wing lunatics who are just a bunch of weird homos who are openly advocating for Danielle Mann or protecting her or something, they're sorely mistaken. As I said in the previous episode, this school district is no longer in Zootsfing, they're in checkmate. It's over. Now, I'm going to tell people something that I've been doing here recently, which is hilarious because it continues to prove my point. I've been making a Facebook account and getting on a particular group that exists on Facebook that is called Talawanda Outlying Areas. I was on that group with an account, and I told everybody two things in 2 posts. My first post was exactly how every citizen can file a formal complaint in the state of Ohio against any educator or administrator for conduct unbecoming an educator or administrator, and that they use the codes of conduct along with specific examples of what the individual has done and how they've broken the codes of conduct. By law, the Ohio State Department of Education and Workforce has to investigate immediately upon receipt of said email and complaint form and evidence. They have to by law. These investigations can take up to 215 plus days approximately. But the reason that you do that is for reasons just like this. Now, on that Facebook group, I made 2 posts, one very generally about what everybody should be doing regarding formal complaints, and then one very specifically about Danielle Mann and how she violated at least 6 of the 9 principles of an educator under the codes of conduct for licensure, which means she should lose her license. At the very least, she should have it suspended, which begs the question, is the school district going to do what I said in that Facebook post before I was kicked off? Not by the moderators for the group, but my account was reported as being fraudulent, probably by sycophants associated, and I used that word in one of my posts, sycophants associated with the school district or the school board, or was it from the actual school district and a school board member themselves? I could care less. They're all queer. So I really don't care who kicked me off. It doesn't matter. Damage done. I've already sent the investigation to the state because the district, by Ohio law, once conducting an investigation, has to send their investigation to the state for sanctions against her license. Potential sanctions. But as I've already laid out, she already violated her contract, and she already violated the codes of conduct to maintain her license. At the very least, she's supposed to have her license suspended for up to a year, all the way to full revocation of her license. But based on what Danielle Mann said in those TikTok videos that I put everywhere and lots of other people spread around everywhere, that what she said in those videos is enough to have her lose her license for a year. Now, as rumor has it, she has at least 29 years in the system, trying to hold on for 30 so she can get her pension and her retirement. Good for her. Which means what? It means that they're probably going to give her a position where she doesn't need to have a license, because there's no way in hell she can go back into the classroom and be taken seriously. If she does, then every parent should pull their children out of her classroom. Can't teach with no students, and you can't teach without a license. Not legally. If the school district is playing ping pong here, then the ball is in your court. It's on your side of the court here. So the parents have a move to make now. I can tell you what I know the school district is thinking. The school district is thinking these parents are stupid. They're making fun of all of you. If there are any local parents listening to this, they think that you're a dummy. They think that you're going to send your kid back into her environment or anywhere around her just 'cause, and that you will fold. You'll just do it just 'cause. You may not like it, but your kid needs to graduate, and if they need her class to graduate, well, then they'll just have to suck it up and do what, just handle it and put up with it, and that's the way that it works. Because we're the ones that run the show. We're Talawanda School District. We own your ass. That's what they're thinking. Call their bluff then. Call them out on it. Pull your child out. Graduate with an Abeka.com diploma, which is the same as having a private Christian diploma from a K-12 school. It holds more weight than a Talawanda diploma. I've brought this up before. People don't seem to understand that when you take a Talawanda high school diploma now anywhere, it's fucking embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Because they're an embarrassment. It holds no weight. There's no gravitas associated with it. There's no prestige. It's criminality and illegality. It's very simple. This is what you're associating with if you continue to send your children to this school district. This is not just my opinion. This is an actual societal situational reality. This is the way that it is. It's like, again, saying that you're a school teacher at Sandy Hook. I mean, come on. It's laughable. It's laughable. That entire thing in Sandy Hook was a criminal organization. There was no shooting that took place there. It was a manufactured crime scene. So what are people actually going to do with a resume like that? What is your child going to do with a diploma from Talawanda? Any employer is going to look that up and go, holy shit, look at this place. What a circus. What a nightmare. Completely embarrassing. But here's one of the things, again, that I did on that Facebook group, which should prove to people that this is how dirty these people are. They don't want people to know the truth. They don't want you to know that you, as a citizen or a parent or an employee or whoever you are, that you have oversight over all of these school districts. It helps that you associate with the school district only in that you live in the general area, but you don't have to file a complaint. Not in the state of Ohio. If you know the truth, or you're alleging that something is going on, and you don't trust the school district to do what they're supposed to do, which, by the way, by law in Ohio, regardless of the level of the investigation, if there's been actual contract license breaking behavior that's taken place, which clearly, in the case of Danielle Mann, and most recently with this other teacher, this Miss Drew Edwards, that these individuals' investigations have to go to the state level regarding their licenses and the retention of their license. It's that simple. That has to happen by law. They have to send it to the state. But the district has a long history of not doing that, as lots of districts do, because they're corrupt. So what do you do then? Simple. As a citizen, you bypass them. You bypass what they're not doing by you doing it. So as I stated earlier, I've already sent in a very thorough explanation of what Danielle Mann has done with hyperlinks and everything. I made this suggestion on the Facebook page, and then I got kicked off. Again, not by the moderators, but by some dumbass who is associated with the school district or friends with the school district or something, because they don't want people to know. That always implies and is a direct admission of criminal behavior. It's a cover-up. That's illegal. Again, this is not complicated. This is what people do in these lines of work because it's a criminal organization. School as a whole is, of course, a criminal organization. They launder money, they steal, they lie, they cheat. They don't tell the truth, certainly not in the curriculum. I've been over all of this before. But this is the oversight that you have as citizens. I created another account. I made the exact same post, albeit shorter. And then it got kicked off again. Someone reported it as being a fraudulent person or something along those lines. And then I made a third account, and I didn't post anything. And then it got kicked off again. See what's happening here? When people in school districts attempt to censor individuals from telling the truth, they only make things worse for them. Did they think that I was not going to say this on my show? Did they think that I gave a damn about not being, or about, I don't know, being anonymous on that Facebook group? Now I won't be anonymous on that Facebook group. What I'll do is I'll come back with my real name, and I'll just make the same posts over again. That's all. I'll just make the exact same posts. I'm not trying to keep people from making money. I'm not trying to keep a teacher from making money. I'm telling the truth about the corrupt business and what criminal organization they're operating here, clearly. And then what I'm doing is I'm telling people what oversight they can have. Doesn't shock me that they wouldn't want people to know that. Over on the Ohio State Board of Education's website, under Professional Conduct Procedures, it says the following here. Again, school districts don't want people to know this. It says the Office of Professional Conduct has jurisdiction to investigate allegations of misconduct by any person who holds or has applied for an educator credential issued by the State Board of Education. Generally, these allegations involve criminal or professional violations. Each investigation begins as a referral from any number of sources, including school districts, children's services agencies, members of the school community, it says, and the wrap-back system. All referrals go through a rigorous review process. Investigations are only opened if the referral suggests that misconduct occurred. In the case of Danielle Mann, it's crystal clear. She's on video, doing it 3 times, at least. It says if the investigation shows that misconduct occurred, the office initiates disciplinary action against the educator's credentials. Disciplinary action can include the following: letter of admonishment, it says, limitation, denial, revocation, stayed suspension, permanent limitation, permanent denial, and permanent revocation. The office works with educators to resolve or settle disciplinary actions. If settlement is not possible, educators have the right to request an administrative hearing. Again, at the bottom here, they have a video that people can watch, a YouTube video where it goes through the entire process from top to bottom. And again, on the left-hand side of the website also, it has to do with licensure, code of conduct, professional conduct, reporting educator misconduct, disciplinary search, and so on and so on. So this is oversight that the public has. This, of course, is oversight that the school districts don't want you to know that you have. This is a huge problem. They're never going to tell you this. They're never going to openly say that this information is at your fingertips and you can hold all of us accountable. Again, the major way to hold them accountable, as you know, is to just walk away from these systems. Your child's old enough to read and write. They can teach themselves. There's absolutely no reason why anybody needs to associate. Now, let me mention this too. This is important. And you heard me do it earlier. When I curse on this show, I'm doing it to get people's attention. Because make no mistake, behind closed doors, school board members and administrators and teachers are making fun of parents and students. They do it constantly. It's a daily activity. That's why the teacher's lounge exists. That's why there will be teachers who actually eat lunch with one another on a regular basis. What do you think they're talking about? They're being unprofessional on their contracted time, usually. This is usually the case. So when I curse on this show, it's to get people's attention to wake up, and at the exact same time, it's to stand in between individuals who apparently don't want to defend themselves and the victimizers themselves, the school district, because they never expect as a school district to be cursed at. They never expect to be held accountable. They never expect anybody to speak sharper and with a sharper tongue than the one that they have in private, because they can't do it in public, which means we can. So this is how you piss them off, and this is how you get their attention also. You do the thing to them that they can't do to you publicly. Now, they can insult you publicly, like installing a teacher like Danielle Mann back into some position and acting like none of this actually happened. That's insulting enough. That's spitting in everybody's faces without literally doing it. But this is why you have to operate with a sharp tongue against these individuals. If you had any glimpse of what they actually said about you behind the scenes, when the cameras aren't rolling and their meetings aren't in session, you would never send your children to these environments. Not ever. If your babysitter behaved the way that they behave, you would never send your children to that babysitter ever again. And yet, why? Why do people keep sending them to these environments? It's slavery. It's exactly what it is. And the school district knows that they have their hooks in you. They're taking full advantage of you. And these people, again, are allowing it to take place. Now, you can engage in a protest here at Talawanda if you want, in Oxford, Ohio. You can engage in some kind of a sign-waving, T-shirt-wearing protest. That's not going to accomplish anything. Pulling your children out in mass. Everybody who disagrees with the district, everybody who disagrees with Danielle Mann, all at once, pulling your children out in mass, and hopefully permanently, that will not only send a message to the school district, what it will do is invite the state in, and then the state will get rid of everybody. They will get rid of the superintendent because there will be no trust. They will get rid of the board members because there will be no trust. They'll keep Dawn King because she's an ethical board member. They might keep the new guy because he's brand new and he doesn't know what the hell's going on by and large. And he's probably learning the hard way about what's really going on and how stupid these people are. But at the exact same time, they'll take an entire wrecking ball to the entire district office. And they'll say, we're going to bring in our own people. You don't just have to be insolvent for the state of Ohio or any state to take over a school district. You can be criminally minded and engage in enough unethical and law-breaking behavior among your employees to get state attention, to then have the state come in and take over and intervene. Like I've said, I have filed formal complaints now against Danielle Mann and this Miss Edwards teacher. So now the state has it. Do you think that the school district locally actually sent any investigation to the state level about either one of these educators? Of course not. You bypass them then. We have oversight. We need to use it. This is a good thing. This is what this is. Shining a light. Bringing this out into the open for people to see and learn and know about. But if people don't follow through with it, it means nothing. You're spinning your wheels, you're kicking the can, you're waiting for the next election, school board election, or this, that, or the other. The solution is in the palm of your hands. And again, citizens have more power than they can possibly imagine. So exercise it. Again, the school board meeting will be tonight. I will link the YouTube channel in the description below, and you can bounce around there and you'll find it. But it starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, it'll be a nightmare, I'm certain. Because again, these individuals don't engage in a Q&A either, like a lot of these boards don't. You know, they limit the amount of time that people can talk. Unfortunately, certainly that's the case in this district, which is the opposite of the way it works in lots of districts. For example, in Westerville, you have 5 minutes to talk. In Westerville, Ohio, 5 minutes to talk, and if the public comments take the entire evening and take hours long, then, well, that's how long it takes. There's no time limit on the amount of speakers that can exist, but you just have 5 minutes per speaker. Here at Talawanda, in Oxford, Ohio, it's 3 minutes and then 30 minutes total. Again, it should tell you something. You know, people show you who they are through their actions and their policies and their behaviors. This is not good. Again, I'll link that in the description below. But stand up for yourself. And the easiest way, again, that anybody who is distrusting of the American education system can stand up for themselves is by walking away and never returning. That's how you do it. It's very easy to do. And you and your child, children, etc., will be healthier for it. Now let me move on to this. Some good news. This was actually hilarious. It's something that I brought up a while back, but worth revisiting, hence there's a result to this story. The Oxford Community Schools in Oxford, Michigan, where Jesse James and myself made quite the appearance. You may recall, again, the same school district where Ethan Crumbley unfortunately killed 4 students in that school, and the entire building and administration were totally negligent in the entire process, along with the school board in covering up everything that was taking place there. One of their incoming board members, who was running for one of the vacant positions on the school board, the based individual who knew that Sandy Hook was fake and that other school shootings are fake, while some are real, some are not. And this individual, again, was taking to social media and taking to local Facebook pages and encouraging people to watch documentaries about these fake school shootings. That individual ended up winning the election for the seat that they were running for. A Rich Schneider is now an Oxford Community Schools school board member for a 2-year position, apparently, or something along those lines. Fantastic. Rumor has it, people locally are losing their minds. How on earth can this person get on the school board? This is crazy. This person's a nutbag. That's right. The person who doesn't believe government, doesn't believe the TV, doesn't believe everything that strangers tell them is the nutbag. Wrap your head around that one. Finally, a based individual on the school board. Excellent. They're going to have a tough time, but they're going to have a microphone. and they're going to have a First Amendment right to say what they'd like and ask questions and encourage people to watch, listen, pay attention, and a number of other things, and snap people out of it maybe. That would be a fantastic thing. So congratulations, Rich. Well done. There's this now on a more depressing note, albeit not shocking, given the state of education certainly, and certainly the state of education in New Mexico. Cicely sent this my way from the school district where she used to work, the Artesia Public Schools in New Mexico here. Artesia, New Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. And it says the following here regarding their overview and their report card for the school year of 23-24. Keep in mind again, New Mexico is 51st in the nation in education, worse than Washington, D.C. They have an enrollment of approximately 3,721 students and 10 schools. Their math proficiency is at 35%. Their reading proficiency is at 46%. And their science proficiency is at 38%. They apparently have a 75.9% overall regular attendance rate. So it's kind of an odd way to put it. 75.9% apparently show up on a regular basis, whatever that means. It says regular attendance measures the percentage of students who were present more than 90% of enrolled school days. Okay. So you have approximately 76% of your student population who shows up 9 out of 10 days. And then the other 25 some odd percent or 24% show up whenever they want. That's not good. I mean, that's amazing as well. And conveniently, their educator qualifications data is not going to be available until next year. Same thing with their school climate surveys will not be available until next year. I'm sure they're fantastic. I asked Cicely, too, about why this was the case, and she openly said it's rampant with nepotism, and then you have endless individuals who are teaching uncertified and people who are just not qualified. Again, these are truly the statistics of babysitting. That's what this is. You're talking about, again, way below 50% proficiency in anything here. That's awful. Very quickly, let me bounce back to this. I've got a piece of audio to play regarding the Oxford Community Schools. As it turns out, the families of the Oxford High School shooting are back to demanding investigations into the school employees' board members for failures leading to the shooting. This is going to get interesting because, unfortunately, the state individuals don't really want to do any investigation any further than they already have. We know that the people who were working in that building were negligent, violated their contracts, same thing with their licensure, and then, of course, unfortunately, some of them were given different jobs in other places, and then they just sort of disappeared into the ether and into the shadows, which is really awful. But they're back at it, again, as parents attempting to hold them accountable. They've been paid off now, a lot of these parents, millions of dollars as a matter of fact. But anyway, give this latest news report. This is from News Channel 10. Up there in Michigan, WILX.com. And here we go in 3, 2, 1.
It's been nearly 3 years since the Oxford High School shooting massacre north of Detroit that claimed the lives of 4 students and injured 7 others.
Tonight, families of the shooting victims are demanding full transparency about the events that led up to the tragedy. They are demanding answers like how a student was able to kill 4 classmates and injure 7 others. The families say, according to Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald, Attorney General Dana Nessel does have the authority to investigate the incident, quote, regardless of invitation. Families are now questioning the AG's office, which previously argued it could not investigate the shooting because district board members declined.
This request is to investigate every single government agency. The school is an agency. For all events before, during, and after the shooting.
According to the families, there is enough evidence to open an investigation on 6 former school employees, former members of the school board, and 1 member of the current school board.
Now, I brought this up back then when this was all taking place and I was going through those documents. One of the major reasons why an investigation isn't going to take place is because it would be a complete indictment, not just on the people and not just on the environment, but the actual policies, procedures, and technologies that they have in place that don't do anything. They would all become obsolete. All of them, again, would look like they were completely useless because they are. And then, of course, again, it all boils down to human error and human negligence and individuals not following the policies they have in place. Not to mention, they have too many policies. No administrator, counselor, or school teacher knows all of the different policies that they have to follow, all of the different programs that they have to pop information into on a computer on a day in and day out basis and track, all of these parameters, so to speak, and these statistics having to do with student academic achievement or behavior or attendance or whatever, or any, again, discipline that they've experienced, discipline referrals, whatever it may be. The very systems and technological procedures that schools and school districts blindly adopt are actually used against them in moments like this. Well, what do you mean you didn't check that computer program that said that Ethan Crumbly was doing this? Well, what do you mean this person over here didn't check this and do this particular thing on the computer that they were supposed to do? Well, what do you mean you didn't? And then it just becomes this giant I gotcha moment. But these schools invite these problems in, and they don't even know that they're inviting the problems in. Again, I've been over it at length, and certainly on Substack. Again, if you've bounced over there and you've seen the articles, you're well aware. They just adopt all of these methods and all of these new gimmicks and games and nonsense, and it doesn't improve anything. And it's proven to not improve anything. They're all proven to not be preventative measures regarding anything. It doesn't improve academic performance. They don't improve the safety and security of the building or the people who work within. It has nothing to do with that. So again, it would be any kind of a real investigation, as one already took place, regarding that Guidepost Solutions investigative report and that outside agency that came in that school district. They found that this school district had all kinds of policies, procedures, and technological tools, and the number of school employees who were appropriately using them and relying on them and of course looking at them and popping in information was next to zero. They just weren't doing it. Again, excuse making as well. Well, I didn't think that I had to, or we just used this program, or it's brand new, or we just started using it, or we didn't have access to it, or this, that, or the other. Your average school teacher, counselor, administrator cannot comprehend statistical analysis of any stretch. They just can't. To then, again, try to intervene in a child's life in some particular way, and they're not even trained to do that either. So it's just an entire environment that is run by a very corrupt lobby that is interested in flooding the business with technological tools that no one knows how to use, no one wants to use, and it just becomes another thing that they have to use. But unfortunately, like I said, it ends up always backing up on them and being used against them when something terrible happens like this. So there's that. Okay, anyway, again, good luck with any future investigation. We'll see if one actually takes place. I'm not going to hold my breath, but there you go. One last education thing here very quickly. I like to sort of surveil Alex Soros's X page nowadays to see what, stupid stuff he's saying. And he put out this article the other day and claimed that this was a bad thing and that this needed to stop. And it had to do with North Carolina parents having more school choice rights and choosing where to send their children. Of course, he's a communist, so that he would think this was a bad thing. But this was an article from ProPublica.org, a left-wing rag, I'm sure. It was titled under their education section, "Segregation Academies Across the South Are Getting Millions in Taxpayer Dollars." It says, North Carolina offers an especially telling window into what is happening across this once legally segregated region, where legislators are now rapidly expanding and adopting controversial voucher-style programs. No, there's nothing controversial about it. Parent rights are parent rights any way you slice it. More money going to parents to allow their children to go where they want to go to school and where their parents want them to go to school, in particular homeschooling, is a good thing. But again, you have to leave it to the Jewish communists to play the race card, because they will every chance that they have. And they have here. They're essentially saying in the article that more white students have the ability to look for other schools than black students do. Therefore, more public schools are turning out to be more black schools, so to speak, with just black students, as opposed to mixed race, multiracial schools, because all the whites are leaving. That's essentially the summary. Again, it's an old argument, but this right here is completely absurd also. Again, all any family has to do, regardless of race, is look at another family who is leaving and say, why are you leaving? And have them tell you. And then say, oh, okay, that's interesting. Well, where are you going? Where are you taking your child? Are you going to have them on some online homeschooling program? Or are you going to have them in another charter school? Or are you going to put them in a private school? Or where are you going to put them? I mean, that's all that has to happen. But again, when there's no other logical explanation for freedom in the mind of a communist, they have to play the race card. They have to, engage in name calling, because that's all they have. Well, it's race related, and blacks are disenfranchised and they don't have the opportunity as white students do. Really? Do their feet not work the same way? Can they not walk away also? They can. It just depends on what they know and what they know what to do. In fact, here's one example. They provide a number of examples, but here's one. It says Northeast Academy, a small Christian school in rural Northampton County on the Virginia border, is among one of these schools. It says, as of the 2021-22 survey, the school's enrollment was 99% white in a county that runs about 40% white. So why is that a bad thing? And why would that be? First of all, if you have a Christian school and it's predominantly white, and these are children who may have left the public school system perhaps for academic reasons or violence-related reasons, a unmanageable environment, a distraction environment, if you catch my drift, then again, why is that a bad thing? So first of all, it's probably academic. That probably has a lot to do with it. More focused, probably quieter also. And then the second thing is probably violent behavior. There's more violent behavior in multiracial public schools than there are in schools that are not. Certainly ones, and this is statistically accurate, certainly ones that are predominantly white. There tends to be less violence. But again, just like public schools, where they tend to be more multicultural, so to speak, or diverse, as people would say, there's far more violence. There's far more conflict. So again, in the article, the author is pushing the word segregation and segregation academies, that this is all about segregating people. Well, if it is, so be it. But this is what happens when you give people back their individual rights and the ability to leave. It just shows what they wanted in the first place, which was not integration. People can take that any way they want, but this is the proof of it on the other end of the timeline. They're not forced to go to public school now. They were never really forced to go to public school, but again, they were shackled by the matrix in believing that they had to send their children. Now that they know that they have other options, and that the state is rewarding these other schools and these other smaller schools for having students in them, then maybe these smaller schools are having more academic success and less violence and less distractions. Why is that a bad thing? It's a bad thing for the Jewish communists because, again, their grift goes away. Their enslavement of the mind goes away. And that's how they profit. So, Good. They're losing control. They're losing a little grip. This is a good thing. Okay. One last story, jab-related, Ozempic. That's right, Ozempic. This is from ZoomerNationNews.com. It is titled, Ozempic Found to Shrink Your Bones, Muscles, and Heart. This was published on the 21st of November. It says, one of the realities in medicine is that there will never be a pill or medication that is going to make you thin, and it doesn't end up being poisonous or a scam. It says this has been the way for decades as fat people who refuse to just stop eating at McDonald's or go to the gym try to find a pill that will do the work for them despite the Hinken science and journos saying this will kill you. It says the current medication fat people are flocking as a substitute for dieting and exercise is Ozempic, which is a treatment for diabetics that fatties flocked as their savior. These are their words, not mine. I'm just telling you. This is what they say. We, of course, know these weight loss shots to be harmful. I wrote a Substack article about it a while back. You can go back and read that one if you'd like. They are all terrible. There's no doubt about that. Let me see here. It goes on. It says, to their credit, Ozempic does work better than all the other scams in the last few decades, but it's still bad for you if you use solely to lose 500 pounds. It's already discovered this injection will shrink your heart muscle, as UA discovered the same effect in rats. It goes on here again. It has some quotes from some other headlines, but it goes on here and it says, not only are you shrinking in organs, your skeleton is also shrinking, which means taking this liquid meant for diabetics will make you shorter along with your heart. It also goes on and says the shrinking goes even further in that not only your skeleton and heart are shrinking, most of the weight loss you experience with Ozempic is muscle atrophy. It wraps up here, again after naming other headlines and studies that are proving this. It says, case in point, if you are overweight, just accept the doctor saying you need to diet it anyway. It says all this medication is doing is going to make you even worse off than just being fat. You have a choice of either working to become a muscle-bound Chad or shrink away into a goblin as the internet laughs at your yapping about Ozempic ruining your life, unquote. Again, not good. That should go without saying. But it also, again, changes the DNA. It changes the hormonal balance between your brain and the organs that are supposed to do the thing that they're supposed to do. So there's no way that that can be good either. And it's not. And of course, there's no repercussion for it either. Ozempic is a foreign medical company. They don't exist in the United States, Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken. And you can't hold them accountable if something bad happens, and you can't hold your doctor accountable either if something bad happens. So there you go. Okay, on a final note, again, I will link the description below of this particular episode regarding the Talawanda School Board meeting if you're interested in watching on YouTube. With that said, it wouldn't surprise me, as it's not surprising some other individuals around here, that the school board might try to shut down the meeting altogether and cancel it. Again, they might even try to hold it sometime over Thanksgiving break, but who knows? Time will tell. Again, highly suspicious. This should continue to prove to people that if they try to pull such a move, that they're in checkmate. It's game over. Doesn't matter what move they try to make, they've already lost. So again, whether it happens or not, if it does happen, I will bring you that audio on Sunday night, Monday morning on that episode, the next episode. And if it doesn't happen, then I'll bring you that update also. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening as always, and I'll catch you on Monday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.